welcome to the webcast. So happy that you decided to join us today. Really look forward to this particular session. Not really a software itself presentation, but a great experience for those of you who are considering production coach. You'll get to hear today from some great customers, get to learn a little bit more about their experiences, and I think that will make it just a really super good experience for you. The purpose of this webcast is mainly so that those that are considering production coach have a great perspective from people who have already made the investment and are in the process of utilizing or expanding what they're doing with it. And so what I'll begin with today is just a little quick review directly from our website. You might notice that I'm here at rsasolutions.com. Under the products, I'm at Production Coach. And so what kinds of things might customers expect? Well, first of all, please understand that the system is highly modular, meaning that you can do as much or as little with it as you would like. From the very most basic of making a product label and shipping out the door to being able to have vast numbers of stations or even a reasonable number of the modules that are available within the system. I will cover some of those so you have a little idea of what I'm talking about, but hopefully we can get through those and help you have a better understanding. Some of the results, tremendous increase in throughput. That's one of the things that I hear over and over from customers is that they were really, really surprised about all of the small accumulated things of improving communications and flow and managing of things that have enabled them to increase their throughput tremendously. Number two, widely happening in our industry is not shipping 100% accurate 100% of the time. And Production Coach makes it so clearly obvious to you. You can't get the wrong things on the truck, and it makes sure that you get all of the right things on it as well. Being able to manage outside of the factory itself all the way to the job site for deliveries and installations, it's been a huge, huge help to our customers. And then I would say that certainly ranking high is the sorting and automation of assembly for customers. That has really helped them organize chaos and to be able to ensure that they're only building what's ready to build with all the right tools that they need. Of course, being able to manage damaged or missing parts in the process to give you good insight into your business, whether that's constraints, bottlenecks, those kinds of things, even historical big data over time to be able to have great data analysis. And then, of course, helping with other things such as timekeeping and such. I'm going to move to the image of the 3D factory and just go through these 8 displayed numbers on the screen of a 3D factory just so that you get a little bit of visualization as to what is happening. And hopefully that will make some good sense. So first of all, one of the great attributes of Production Coach is its ability to harness data. So if you're using some kind of a CAD/CAM system, common, popular to our industry might be, the wood CAD/CAM, Cabinet Vision, Microvellum, Cut-Right, or even other solutions. Production Coach has the ability to be able to import the data directly from those. So we know the products in the work order, all the parts, the hardware, all of the information about that, just literally in a very slick and quick ability to import. From that same kind of an office position, you may want to consider doing a number of things other than just the management or setup of the system, which could include creating shipping tickets, attaching documentation to the work order, being able to move this into more of a paperless kind of a world. again, meant as a general overview today, so I won't talk about all of the possible things that you can do, but just know that from the office, it's very, very easy to be able to provide for production an electronic work order containing all the information they need to do their jobs effectively. Item number 2 is depicting a first operation in the shop. It's really common for our customers to, really common for our customers to want to track at first operation, whether that is panel saws, nested base machines, whatever that first operation is. It's common to want to know when a work order has started in production and to be able to have that kind of tracking. Of course, you can have whatever number of stations that you might want to know various tracking at. And item number 3 is really depicting that while you can, you don't have to. I picked a couple of operations that commonly our customers skip, such as edge banding or horizontal bore and dowel insertion. And you might say, well, why would they not want to track that? Well, you can imagine that flowing through production, if we knew that it was cut at the saw, or we know that it was made at the CNC, and we're getting ready to take it into the pre-assembly area, as long as we have it accounted for there, we can assume the others were done, or you can have those as tracking stations. Number 4 is probably, I would think of as one of the bigger features of Production Coach, although not all of our customers choose to use it, but sorting is very amazing. So if we said we had a work orders averaging between 30 and 40, let's pick 35 as a median, 10 parts each, that's 350 parts in a work order flowing through towards assembly. And so Station 4 allows us just to scan a barcode on a part and organize all of the parts very, very quickly by product, so that we have a real understanding of what's available to be assembled and what might be missing. A great station also for QC as well. Then Station 5 depicts our 3D assembly, so communication with the sorting. By the way, I might mention also that sorting is not limited to one type of sorting. For some of our customers, they sort case parts separate from doors and drawer fronts, some even separate from drawer boxes, and some even separate from toe base assemblies. And we have the ability at Station 5 to synchronize all of that together and to give assembly not only a 3D image of what they're building, all the parts, all the fronts, all the hardware. We're going to generate for them a product label. We'll update the product status in the system to let us know that it's been built as well. Also, of course, having the ability under number 5 to be able to generate kits or pallets, either of loose items, products on pallets, whatever things you might want to do to stage the job and preparedness for shipping, make sure that everything is done and complete. And then, of course, number 6, showing us not only that, along with 7, to scan directly onto the truck so that we make sure that we ship 100% accurate 100% of the time. And then finally, at Station 8 is displaying what we would think of as the job site tracking. So having the same kind of ability to help manage the factory or the manufacturing execution, to be able to help ensure that the right things get offloaded from the truck, that we can have status, updates as to what's been delivered, what's been installed, being able to automatically generate damage part alerts directly back to the factory or whatever is needed to be able to do a great job. So just real quick, a few screens, and we'll move on to the customer interviews. Of course, it allows you to import your work orders. Those display on the left-hand side in a really nice GUI interface. Needs to be simple enough that people don't need vast training just by looking at the screen. It makes sense. Upper section is what we refer to as assemblies, the cabinets, the countertops, the fixtures, whatever it might be. And the lower section is the items that are loose or not part of the assemblies that we in some way need to manage, whether that is creating kits or whatever needs to happen with those items. Again, many of the modules within Production Coach are very optional for some of our customers. They use our Google Calendar integration to be able to do finite work order scheduling and to be able to track at a really, really great level to know the completion or status of all work orders at any kind of a station. Because we utilize Google Calendar means that information is also available from any internet-enabled or smart device. So you could be on the golf course and someone called wanting to know where a job is and status and know that instantaneously. Business intelligence board is key metrics that we might care about in our business, being able to see, are we running in a balanced workflow? Do we have any constraints or bottlenecks that we need to be alerted by? Are we keeping up with our performance by station according to our productivity goals? What kind of quality are we producing? Here's a great example. Not only can you run in a live mode, but you can also look at this data deferred over time. So maybe I want to know over the last 6 months, what was the leading cause for damaged parts in my factory? If I know that kind of information, I can, proactively decide to do some operator training, machine maintenance, or whatever might be required to eliminate those kinds of problems. Of course, you can see the work order status directly from the interface itself at a finite level, and again, via the Google Calendar at the completion of any station. Damage part alerts and management of those things have been a tremendous help to many of our customers and are available to be reported from any production coach station and or the job site tracking module, and can be an alert that automatically pops up at whatever station that you might want it to. For some of our customers, they utilize production coach in the tracking of time, either for the purposes of payroll and order for work order costing. It literally allows you to have a very granular, detailed level, if you like, down not only to how many hours attributed to a work order, but also by department and or by task under department. And so I'm sure some of our, at least one of our panelists today will probably cover that. Just another module, Smart Labels on Demand. We took what people were doing with labels on demand at CNC routers and made it astronomically better. Not only is it giving us part barcodes for each of the parts, it's showing orientation of the barcode so that the edges get banded properly. It is sequencing the offloading of it. It's pacing the operator, and again, updating the system among other features. I mentioned back in the 3D factory at station number 4 with sorting. There's a photographic image of one of our customers' sorting racks. They can either be fixed racks sorting multiple work orders or mobile carts, really to any configuration you want. So it's going to show you exactly where everything gets staged. When you scan a barcode, it turns red. You just place it there. It turns green when all the parts are there. This is the 3D assembly view. So just literally by scanning any part label, it's going to automatically pull up a 3D visualization. You have complete control over being able to see below it, behind it, inside it, able to turn on or off parts, see the fronts as well as the hardware. Also generating, we talked about the loose items when we first began. And so this is a matter of being able to have one singular barcode that's representing a pallet or a pack or a kit. Commonly for customers, that might be molding bundles, hardware bags, or in this case, it's displaying a pack of adjustable shelves as well. Being able to stage and organize work orders to make sure everything is ready and prepared for when shipping is time. Being able to scan everything on the truck and ensure 100% accurate shipments 100% of the time. And then finally, again, the job site tracking, where we're able to literally scan coming off of the truck or as products are being installed as well. So anyway, with all of that said, I'm ready to begin conducting the customer interviews, and I'm really excited about that and want to go ahead and get started. So Kent, if you would, please unmute yourself and allow me to make a little bit of an introduction to the team. So Kent Swinson, a great friend of mine, owner of Timberline Cabinetry and Millwork out of Manhattan, Kansas, is joining us today. Kent has a pretty vast experience with Production Coach. Actually, he was one of our very first implementations in the United States, and Kent is a really savvy guy, not only with production but software. And so, Kent, if you would, please begin with telling everybody just a little bit about Timberline cabinetry and millwork.
So we do primarily commercial millwork. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Primarily commercial millwork. We have anywhere from 15 to 25 employees in the shop, depending on the time of the year and the season, what we're working on. Production Coach has given us the ability to manage things much smoother and more fluidly, and stop the herky-jerky action that we struggle with so much in our industry. So it's really, really important for us.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kent. Appreciate learning a little bit about Timberline. Fabulous business. You could eat off the floors for sure. And so it's really good. So tell us a little bit, the things that I'm going to kind of cover with each of the panelists are things that I believe are important for customers or prospects of Production Coach to better understand. And so, Kent, one of the fears that people have about implementing software is that it's going to take a long time, that's going to be more difficult than the salesperson said that it was, and that it's just going to be a bunch of unexpected costs and stuff. So would you tell everybody about your experience with integrating Production Coach when you got started?
So all the problems and concerns that you just voiced have been my experience with every other piece of software that we've ever installed, with the exception of Production Coach. So when we purchased Production Coach, we took it upon ourselves to get the computers installed on the shop floor. We loaded the software. We hooked up the monitors and the barcode scanners. We did that stuff so that when the integrator came on site to help us get it set up, that was already ready to go. So all he had to do was show us how to use the software and how to load our work orders into the system. And he was here for 1 day, and in 1 day we were trained how to use it, and we were functional, and the next day we were actually using it in production. Now, as time progresses, you find more and more opportunities and things that you can use it for to solve additional problems that you have. And that requires then that you go possibly change the source data so that you now have some information that allows Production Coach to do whatever it is that you want it to do. But the actual setup of the system and getting it ready to run is literally like falling off of a log.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Second question would be, let's talk about the before and after a little bit. I was blessed enough to be at one of the factory tours we did at your facility, and I remember you sharing with the people who were in attendance some of the big changes that happened. I think you talked about square footage, about personnel, about equipment, and what that did related to throughput results. So can you give us a little idea of what really is the impact of Production Coach in your factory?
So for us, the tremendous benefits that we get out of it are at the assembly and the shipping department. Prior to implementing Production Coach, it took us hours and hours to sort parts out for a work order so that we'd get all the parts for each cabinet in a pile ready to build. And it took a fair amount of skill and experience for the person doing that to recognize what the parts were and which parts they needed and which parts were missing. And it was a very difficult, painful process. Now we can take someone, a new employee that comes in off the street, and literally in 15 minutes, they can be productive and sorting all the parts out for a work order with 15 minutes of training and getting it right. The amount of work that we can now get through assembly has tripled using the same square footage, the same equipment, and the same bodies. Prior to Production Coach, we could do 30 boxes a day, was pushing it. We can now do it's a lot of effort, but we can do 80 to 90 boxes a day with that same setup because of the benefits that it's gained us. And the other thing is that now in shipping, we're able to, because production coach keeps track of everything as it's moving through the process. We know that everything in a work order is complete before it ships. We know that if something is missing, we also know then when it comes time to ship it, what's supposed to go on the truck. And as we start loading, it keeps track of what actually got loaded versus what was supposed to be loaded. Lets us know before we leave that, hey, we're missing 2 things, and gives us a packing list that's generated specifically automatically by what is scanned onto the truck, so that there's no haggling over the GCs on the other end about, well, did you really deliver this or not? Well, the only way it shows up on the packing list is if we scanned it. So yes, it's complete. And so now they're much more trusting of us on the other end, because they see that everything that's on the packing list is, if we say it's there, it's there.
That's awesome. Awesome. I just want to make sure I heard you correct in your statement. So this is rephrasing, but I think I heard you say prior to production coach, you were through putting around 30 boxes. After production coach, with no additional employees, no additional equipment, and no additional square footage or area for it, that it tripled the throughput.
That is correct. It's a hard push, and it's hard work, and we're hustling and we're moving, but we can get that done. So yes, it tripled our capacity.
That's awesome. Last thing, if you were going to give advice to anyone attending the webcast today that's considering production coach, what would be the best advice for them you can think of?
I'd say go see it in action at somebody else that does what you do, and see what it's saved them, and see with your own eyes. If someone had told me that I was going to see a 300% increase in my capacity through an area, particularly one that's problematic like assembly, I wouldn't have believed him in any way, shape, or form. But seeing it with your own eyes, and on all of the little intricacies and all of the individual little problems that it solves, it's the accumulation of all the savings of each one of those little individual solutions that gets you to that point where you're able to do 3 times more than you could before. And it's not one simple little thing that you can just stick your finger on and say, oh, well, that's obvious. It's a bunch of small little things that all accumulate together to be enormous savings. So seeing it with your own eyes is truly as some people like to say, the proof is in the pudding.
That's awesome, Kent. Thank you so much. Again, at the latter portion of the webcast, we'll open up question and answer with the people on. And so if you do have the time, hang around, and might be a question or two for you before we're done. Thank you, Kent.
You bet.
Caleb, would you unmute yourself, please? Quick introduction. This is Caleb Carpenter from Homestead Cabinetry out of Hiram, Utah. And Caleb has been the brains in making all this work together for Homestead. So he and I have been working together for quite a while. So anyway, thank you, Caleb. Tell everybody a little bit about Homestead, if you would.
Yeah. So Homestead is a high-end custom cabinet shop. We do almost exclusively residential work. We do lots of acrylic and laminate, but we also do lots of finished work. We are a shop of probably around 50 people, and we do somewhere between, a normal day for us, we produce somewhere between 100 and 120 boxes.
Awesome. Great thing. They have a beautiful factory as well, but I have to say, of customers that I get to frequent, every single time I'm there, it looks completely different than the time before. So these guys like shuffling and moving and firing processes and making it all better and better and better. So it's a great business. Hey, same kind of question that I asked Kent Obviously, it's a concern for prospects. How is integration going to go? And so give these guys a little idea about what to expect to experience.
I would echo some of what Ken said, that compared to most software setups, Production Coach goes pretty smoothly. Our particular experience was not quite as smooth as Ken's, but that's at least partially because of a mistake on our part, which I will explain. But overall, the integration went pretty well. The mistake was that Sean has mentioned that Production Coach is very modular. It's very easy to add new stations, to add new computer terminals. It's very easy to reconfigure those terminals so that they function differently. And our mistake was we tried to figure out everything we could possibly need Production Coach for ahead of time, and we bought it all at once. We bought something like 14 stations, which was too many. So our integration process turned out to be more complex than it needed to be because we started too big. So my advice to people interested in Production Coach is don't worry about figuring out every little detail about how you will use it and where and why. Start with just a couple of stations, use them in a couple of key places in your shop, get to know the software. Once you do, it will be easy to add bits and pieces and expand it out into the rest of your shop. So you don't need to have all the questions answered right up front.
That is really good. I probably should have asked you for the customer or the prospect advice first, knowing that was certainly a situation when these guys got started. They were in a situation to where they had a mindset, and that is, we don't want any surprises. We want to make sure that we get everything that we need, all at one time. And obviously, I think his advice here is the KISS, keep it super simple, and just know that it really is super easy to add on. So that's awesome. Hey, Caleb, would you tell us a little bit about the results, kind of the before and after? What's it done to impact Homestead's business?
Yeah. So the impact of Production Coach at Homestead has been huge. I mentioned that we do some around 120 boxes a day. Before Production Coach, our average was between 30 and 40. So we've tripled that. And if we really push, I think our record was, I think we did 250 boxes a day for a week once. So our capacity is much, much larger than it used to be. Last year was our most profitable year ever. And we did that with 10 people fewer than average. So we used to have an average of 60 people every year. Yes. So last year was our most profitable with 50 people instead of 60. The parts of our shop where it helped the most, first one I'd mention would be the sorting station. Prior to Production Coach, we had a similar problem to what Kent mentioned, where keeping everything organized by cabinet when it arrived in assembly was quite a headache. We operate with nested CNC routers, and we had our nests set up so that cabinet parts for every cabinet came off grouped more or less together, and from cutout on, every single department would put effort into keeping the cabinets organized, keeping all the parts grouped by cabinet. Which meant inefficient nests. It meant a lot of extra effort for the cutout guys and for edge banding to keep everything organized. And all of their effort notwithstanding, things would still go missing before they reached assembly. Our assembly guys probably spent 40% of their time just hunting down stuff that wasn't there. I'm sure all of you will be familiar with the headache of getting a cabinet partway built and then discovering you don't have what you need to finish it, whether it's a cabinet part or hardware or doors. And Production Coach is what solved those headaches for us. With the installation of a sorting station just upstream from assembly, First of all, that allowed us to decouple cutout and edge banding from the sorting process. Our cutout department now nests everything however is most efficient and group things by, all they worry about grouping them by is by part type so that it's easier for edge banding. Edge banding doesn't worry about organizing parts at all. He just runs things and then throws them on a cart at random. When the parts arrive at the sorting station, it takes 15 to 20 minutes to sort out all of the parts for a job, and it's accurate, it's complete, everything's there. So no cabinet ever gets into assembly until everything is accounted for. So once a cabinet starts in assembly, it flows all the way through. It doesn't stop, it doesn't get hung up by anything. So assembly is far more efficient, much less of a headache than it used to be. It's probably still the bottleneck in the shop, but it's a bottleneck that can do 3 to 5 times what it used to. The other place where it made a big difference was in shipping. Our other major headache was dealers calling us and saying, hey, you never shipped this part. And before Production Coach, we had no way of knowing whether that was true or not. So we spent a lot of time and money remaking and shipping parts that we'd already manufactured. Now, when we send a job to a site and they call us and say something is missing, we just glance through Production Coach and we can say exactly what did and did not get shipped. And we can confirm to them that it was loaded onto the truck at a certain day and time, so yes, they do have it. That's also helpful. There has been the palletizing feature, because a fairly common thing that we do is to bundle moldings together. And so moldings from a couple of different rooms that get bundled together, and the dealer would call us claiming that we never sent the molding for a specific room. But now we're able, when that sort of thing happens, to tell them we did ship it and it's bundled in this bundle with this number with the moldings from these other rooms. And they're able to hunt it down and find it. So we spend much less time remaking things that we've already made.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. I remember one time I was around and Clay said, or a text I believe was the one that said, magically our phone stopped ringing for all of these calls from. So that's awesome. Hey, quick one off the topic that you kind of already gave the advice about starting simple, keeping it simple and expanding. Tell everybody what your experience has been related to service and support after the sale.
For service and support, our experience has been great. As part of the setup process, they'll give you, if you choose to go with this option, they will give you an online account where you can go in and submit a ticket whenever you encounter a problem. And in my experience, I usually hear from Webcast, the company that does the software development, within half an hour to try and get the problem solved. So very little waiting. They're very, very on top of it. They understand that when something goes wrong, it holds up production for us, and they put a lot of priority into getting things fixed for us, getting them up and running. The other thing that RSA Solutions and Webcast does well with is development. There have been a number of times when we've been using Production Coach and ended up thinking to ourselves, it would be great if Production Coach had this particular feature that it doesn't currently have. And when I call RSA Solutions and describe the feature that we'd like to them, they're very good at working with us and whenever possible, getting that feature integrated. We've had ideas for new features that they decided would be beneficial to all of the customers, in which they implemented for free. But there have also been ideas that were beneficial to us in particular, and they were able to work out a deal where we pay for the development of that particular feature. And in both cases, it's worked out very well for us.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that. If you do have time, Caleb, would appreciate if you hang around for the Q&A at the end of it in case anybody's got anything. But I really, really appreciate you helping people. I know that it's the hardest part is making the decision, and I think you said it really, really good. Don't get overstressed by thinking you have it all figured out. It's so reconfigurable that even if you had in your mind one way, it could completely flip to something else. Might also mention I'm really excited. Soon we'll be embarking on my first project with RFID at the level of sub-assemblies or doors, storefronts. And I think that that's going to be another great step forward for Homestead, since they do a lot of finishing of those components, not a real good way to be able to have barcode for that. So anyway, thank you, Caleb. Appreciate it very, very much. Jamie, again, is with Phil's Custom Cabinets out of Kentucky. Great guy. They have a great business, and so I'm so happy that you joined in an effort to kind of maybe help some of the people attending the webcast today have a little better understanding of what it's like to choose a production coach. So if you would, tell us a little bit about Phil's Custom Cabinets.
All right. So Phil's Custom Cabinets is a 45-year-old second-generation custom cabinet operation, like Sean said, in Western Kentucky. The unique thing about us is not only do we provide and build full-out custom kitchens in residential settings, but we also do an outsourcing model as well. So we have currently about 70 employees in a 75,000 square foot facility, running multiple different operations, united all with Production Coach.
That's awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. So I kind of went through a little series, if you've heard on this.
Yep, I did.
Everybody about what your integration experience was. And if you don't mind this time, let's kind of break it into two, because you followed Caleb's advice that he just gave on here, and you started off pretty simple, and recently you have significantly expanded. So help everybody understand what integration 1 and 2 was like.
Okay, so we actually began a few years ago, and we went and did a live event at Kent's Place, actually, in Kansas, and we were sold right off, knew that it was a solution for us. Many of the things that have been talked about today, we suffered as a manufacturer, not being able to track parts, scattered parts, unorganization, going to the job, lacking parts. So we had a lot of desires that we wanted to look at and to fill. And so we walked away from there knowing, and I think I even called Sean way back saying, we're in, we're going to buy. Work up a couple things for me. And at that point, Sean advised, said, let's start small. Let's get it going, and then we'll see where we're going. Because my initial gut was I wanted to fix everything at one time. And so we did do what Sean had advised, and we bought a few stations, I think 6 to start with, to do assembly and sorting primarily, and then we did some crating and kitting with it as well. And that was, I think we came online almost about 2 years ago now. And like Sean said, we've added, I believe we have, I tried counting this morning and I can't remember off the top of my head, 18 to 20 different stations or different access points, I guess, if, for lack of a better term to call it, for operations throughout the facility. So, and we've ramped up, and we're going to continue to ramp up. We're looking at further needs that we have, but it's definitely a great program from a standpoint of you can start to meet a small need, and then you will grow, and organically it just develops, and you'll see other places that you can plug it in and use it.
That is really awesome. Thank you very much for that. So do you remember how long or what the initial was like? I mean, as far as duration, was it harder, or what would you give somebody to say relative to integration experience?
It's a fast innovation once you pull the trigger to do it. Mine was really similar to Kent's. We had a gentleman come in here, and he was here for I think 2.5 days, and he installed the licensing. We set up all our own computers and stuff as well, but he did install the licensing in the program, did a training session for us on it, and then was gone and let us take it and run with it. And so from an integration standpoint and a learning curve, it's really, really easy comparative to most other softwares.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Tell them a little bit about what's changed in your business as a result of it. Obviously, you've dramatically grown the use of it, and so it's done some things for you. What would be, kind of the top 1, 2, 3 benefits of Production Coach?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're always trying to do is change the culture of our people. And we were able to use Production Coach in that sense to give them a surety of product when it gets to their particular process. They can say, hey, I know it's here because downstream is checked off the box and says that it's here. It's also given our sales force a surety of it, as well as more confidence in speaking to our customers when the product arrives at their facility. So it's really done more so from the culture standpoint for us than anything. We are just beginning to harness now some of the dashboard aspects of it and trying to do some of the gamification with it to really motivate our employees more. But from a tracking and a culture standpoint, it's been the biggest benefits that we've seen with it.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Tell everybody, I think one of the things people worry about is, you get sold on something and then they're gone. What has service and support been like since you made the decision to implement Production Coach?
It's been great. I mean, the few glitches that we've had, we've been able to send off an email to them, and then within relatively 20, 30 minutes, they're back in touch with us and looking at it and then resolving it, and we're off and going again. So, but I'll preface that in 2 years, I've probably had to use it maybe 2 or 3 times. It's just not something that we've had bad experience with when we've had to use it, but we haven't really had a need to use it.
Yeah, even better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got one more question for you, but before I do, I want to put out a little reminder to everybody on the webcast. There is a question section of the docking station. Because of the muting, if you wouldn't mind, use that area to ask your questions to myself or any of the panelists on today. And I'm just giving you that a little bit of a head so that you got a couple minutes to find the question section and to, get yours typed in, what you might want to know so that while you've got access to them. So please use that. And so, Jamie, one of the things that obviously is really nice is to get advice from someone who's been there and done it. And so what would be your main advice for people who are attending this webcast and considering Production Coach?
I would kind of agree with what was said before. To go and kind of witness it in use. What sold us on it was going to Ken's place and actually seeing a demo on it, and the lights started going off in our minds going, yes, we do struggle with this, or this right here would solve something that we experience. The information on the website covers it really, really well. However, to just visually see it, or even go to one of the trade shows where they can run you through a complete demonstration on it, but to see it living and breathing really helps out a lot to be able to picture it in your own facility.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is wonderful. That's one of the reasons why we invest in, of course, the major trade shows, while we do various manufacturing events at some of the machinery collaborators, and why we host factory tours at various locations around the country so that people can have their own really great experience on it. I might point out to everyone that's listening in. We did something a little bit different for those that might not easily be able to travel. But here from our website at RSA Solutions, when you get to the page for Production Coach, what you'll notice is that there's a range of videos also available. And in one of these, you're going to see it say near the center of that called Let's Factory Tour. We actually had a university department come in for one of the factory tours that we were doing at a AWI shop just outside of Dallas. And we had the entire experience videoed. So if you want to see what it's like, that's a really good way also to be able to get that in place. But, let me see what we have here for. Okay, it says I've had to jump in and out of this webcast. I need to track parts in various stages from CNC to delivery. What is the best scheduling software that works with your system? Here's what I can say. We have implemented a link to Google Calendar, and we give you the ability, since we're already importing all the data, we know a number of metrics about the job. We give you a variety of ways to use back scheduling logic, and so it will plan the work orders and also display for you at any station, any date, or any date ranges, the load on that station compared to your productivity goals. So yes, Production Coach can be tracking if you want, it can be sorting if you want, it can be shipping if you want, but it also can help you with the ability to plan or schedule your work orders as well. Let's see what else we have. I'm not going to cover questions related to cost of specific things, but please understand that the system being very modular, the price can range tremendously from a very minor investment to get started and to do some basic things to being able to blow up a factory and utilize a lot of modules like some of these guys are doing as well. So it does range. What I can tell you is that while we have done some tracking about sales, and usually we're looking at a range between 20 and 40,000. However, it can go below that and it can go below that. But just to give you kind of a basic idea of what is going on. So that's as far as I'm going to do with that. We can get with anyone individually afterwards that might want to know more specifics about what a budget would look like based on what they might want to accomplish. And so let's see what else we have. What design software are shops using? So we have customers that are doing a wide variety of different software. I believe that it would be fair to say that at Timberline currently he's running Microvellum and Cutright, and at Homestead they're doing the same thing with Microvellum and Cutright. At Phil's, I believe that you guys are using, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have a combination between Cabinet Vision and KCD and a variety. Jamie, you want to respond to what you've got for software?
Yeah, we're using actually KCD, Cabinet Vision, and then we're using the CAD code software as well, but we're importing into Production Coach through a CSV, which is another option that was available.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, obviously we need to have that kind of a discussion, but we have built imports to the most popular softwares of the industry, and even like in Jamie's case, where we might be getting data from multiple sources, we usually can come up with a good strategy to do that as well. So anyway, that is going to conclude today's webcast. I want to thank, first of all, the panelists for spending their time to help prospects have a better understanding of what the experience would be like. And so thank you guys Caleb and Kent, Jamie, very, very much. And thank you also to everyone who attended today's webcast. I hope that it was a good investment of your time and that you have a better understanding of the tremendous impact that this technology can have on your business. We heard some really good things today, not just modernization and digitalization and getting rid of paperwork and improving communication, but increasing throughput and just a whole host of other things, including making it so that we can ship 100% accurate. So thank you guys so much. Please do fill out the exit poll as you're getting off the webcast. Thank you, and check us out at rsasolutions.com for the next educational webcast. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.